She'd found new love in a new city.
I was happy for her. Happy that she's finally met someone.
They was lovey-dovey.
It was like a fairy tale.
But behind closed doors, things aren't always as picture perfect as they seem.
She became a different person when she was with him.
There'd been some period of time that they had not heard from her.
I did not know what my baby was.
It was not unusual for Cree to leave town. People run away and try to get a new life.
Is this a case of miscommunication or murder?
This was the kind of person who, if there was a disagreement, would probably resort to violence.
I'm very suspicious that she was involved. Somebody knows more than what they were saying.
She would never, ever leave her daughter. She's not going to do that.
Desperation will keep her family searching for the painful truth.
This is a nightmare that nobody wanted to believe.
There's monsters in this world that do terrible things for no reason, just because.
July 1st, 2016. It's a warm Friday evening in Newark, New Jersey, when local resident Dee Dee Smith receives a worrying call about her 7-year-old granddaughter.
Her other grandmother. She called me and told me my granddaughter had an ear infection.
She said she tried taking her to the clinic, but she couldn't because she didn't have her insurance card.
School had let out in June, and Cree had taken her daughter to stay with the daughter's grandmother.
You just need the card number. Cree should have that.
She told me. I called down there. I didn't hear no answer. So that's when she called me.
That doesn't make sense. Let me try her.
She was a good mother. Her baby was the most important thing in her life.
That's what made me start thinking something was wrong.
It's also what prompts Cree's mother to make her own worried call to her daughter.
Hey, this is Cree. Please leave a message.
Hi, Cree. It's Mama. Give me a call when you get this.
But Dee Dee can't know that this is just the first in a series of unanswered calls.
Dee Dee wanted to believe that it was just a misunderstanding, but something felt wrong.
As a mother, you just have this intuition, and in that moment, Dee Dee knew something was wrong.
Growing up in New Jersey, Cree Smith always had a special bond with her mother and older sister.
We did a lot together, even though we was like 8 years apart. Everywhere I went, she went.
Loved and supported, Cree was a happy, bubbly child.
She always joked. She always had a smile on her face.
She was just very giggly all the time. I can't even think of a day that she wasn't cracking jokes.
If Cree wasn't cracking jokes, chances are she was cracking a book.
She was smart. She started reading and writing at the age of 2 when she started school. She got skipped a year.
She was always on the honor roll. She did very well in school.
She loved being smart. And she was a kid who had a plan. She knew what she wanted out of life.
She wanted to become a social worker.
In 2007, Cree graduated high school and went on to college in pursuit of her dream. But during Cree's sophomore year, her plans took an unexpected turn.
Cree was still in college when she got pregnant.
She met a guy named Andre Harris, and they had been dating for a while.
Hey. I got you something to satisfy that craving.
Bless you. I swear this is the only food that make me sick right now.
It wasn't like it was just a fling. I mean, they were serious. They was really serious. They were looking into marriage.
How are we gonna do this?
Together.
With Andre at her side and her family's support, Cree gave birth to a beautiful baby girl named Grace and finished college.
Everybody wanted her to succeed and, you know, graduate and do what she had to do for her daughter, so she always had help. Her sister was there, her godmother was there. Everybody who loved Cree was there helping her.
Though she'd worked hard to achieve her dream, it wasn't without sacrifice.
Children bring a whole different dynamic to a relationship, and Andre and Cree were no different. things began to get a little more complicated and complex.
After my granddaughter was maybe like 4 or 5 years old, everything went south. They grew apart. They grew different interests. They just didn't fit with each other after a while.
I don't think it was a bad breakup at the time, but, you know, he went his way and she went her way with my niece.
Andre wasn't trying to be some absentee father, some deadbeat dad. He was very determined to be in his daughter's life.
Though he'd have to do so from a distance. In early 2014, not long after the breakup, Cree packed her bags for Greensboro, North Carolina.
She went to North Carolina with one of her friends. I thought it was just a vacation, but then she was like, I'm making this permanently.
She told me that she had a job opportunity down there.
She had gone on a few interviews while she was down there and had gotten a job offer to work as a counselor with a teen outreach program.
Cree had always thrived with new adventures and opportunities, and this was right up her alley.
She's never been, scared to try new things. So she went to North Carolina.
She wanted a new start. She wanted to start everything off new.
She was in a situation where she could reboot her life and just have a nice, fresh start.
Soon, Cree and her daughter were building a new life.
She had a good job. She had an apartment. She had a car.
She seemed to be doing fine down there.
She made a lot of friends quickly. When I met Cree, she had a couple friends already.
Including 23-year-old Patricia Bronson.
Moving to a new city can be tough, especially when you don't know anyone very well. But Cree and Patricia developed a strong friendship, and that made the move a lot easier.
It was through that strong friendship that Cree met 23-year-old Desmond Pendergrass.
Oh, girl, he's here. Let me get his attention. Oh, Lord. How do I look? Just scream you. How you gonna spring that on me like that?
She always liked the light-skinned guys. That was her thing.
You want a drink?
Sure. Thanks.
I see the connection between them. They were a cute couple.
The relationship blossoms, and before long, they decide to move in together.
She seemed to be happy and satisfied. Life is good for her.
So good that in October of 2015, Cree brought Desmond home to New Jersey to meet her family.
I thought they were a cute couple.
They seemed very lovey-dovey. I mean, they were holding hands and walking and talking.
They were also making plans.
I asked him, what's his future with my sister? So he was like, I want to marry her, and I want her to have another baby.
Cree, her daughter, and Desmond became like a little family. And this is something that Cree wanted the whole time.
I was happy for her.
While Cree enjoyed being home with family, she knew that her life was in North Carolina and with Desmond.
They're going to have this happy life together. I was happy for her. Happy that she's finally met someone that she feels that she wants to marry. Life is good for her.
Though 8 months later, in June of 2016, Cree was back in New Jersey.
School had let out in June, and Cree had taken her daughter up to New Jersey to stay with the daughter's grandmother.
The summertime, when she got out of school, she allowed her to go to her father's family house, the grandmother, to stay with her for the summer. The last time I talked to Cree, everything was good.
Cree was happy while she was up here.
But now, at the beginning of July, almost 2 weeks after Cree returned to North Carolina, her family is starting to worry.
Cree's daughter had gotten sick in New Jersey when she was staying with her paternal grandparents, and they were desperately trying to reach Cree.
I was like, I can't believe this. So I kept calling and calling.
Desperate to reach Cree, Dee Dee enlists the help of her other daughter, Cree's older sister, Tenalisha.
I started reaching out to people. Have anybody spoken, talked, went to Cree house or anything? A lot of people said they seen her maybe when she came back from Jersey, but nobody had a recent contact with her.
Finally, when Cree's boyfriend Desmond reaches back out to Tenalisha, he delivers some stunning news.
Oh, thank God. Is Cree with you?
What? Not. She's not here.
I was asking him, where's Cree? He was like, oh, Cree left and went to Florida.
for moving to Miami. I can't believe she didn't tell you.
After moving to Greensboro, North Carolina, single mother Cree Asia Smith had taken a second chance at love with her new boyfriend, Desmond Pendergrass.
They're going to get married, and they're going to have this happy life together. Her, Desmond, and her daughter.
But now, 2 years after making her sudden, unannounced move to North Carolina, it looks as if Cree has done it again.
Cree Smith's family had not heard from her, and they were unable to contact her for a few days.
But when Cree's sister reached out to Desmond, he said that she had gone to Florida.
According to Desmond, she went to Florida for a job interview and ended up getting the job, and they wanted her to start the job immediately.
It's almost a repeat of how she ended up in North Carolina.
Isn't it great? We're all gonna move down at the end of the summer.
The company, they're gonna put her up and help her get a place.
Desmond's excitement does little to diminish Cree's sister's concern, though.
Asking him, have you spoken to Cree? Tell Cree to call me. Tell Cree to call her mother.
Nobody's talked to Cree in over a week.
Really?
Desmond is a little shocked when the family starts talking about Cree is missing.
When's the last time you talked to her?
I mean, I guess it's been a little while, but she said she was real busy.
He sounded like he was a little concerned about her.
But Cree's mother, Dee Dee, is more than a little concerned, especially after more than a dozen calls to her daughter go unanswered.
I kept calling and I couldn't get no answer. Couldn't nobody get in touch with her.
Finally, she decides to act.
At a certain point, the family begins to worry that something's not quite right.
Greensboro Police Department.
This trip in Florida, something may have happened to Cree.
I called the police department down there in Greensboro to put in for a missing person.
It's not like her not to call us.
Has she ever taken off before?
Well, yeah. Her move to North Carolina was out of the blue.
Dee Dee was forced to explain how Cree had more or less moved to North Carolina on a whim.
She just got sick of Jersey and she wanted a fresh new start. So that's why she went down to North Carolina.
Is it possible that she's just done that again?
No, not without Grace.
Cree always kept a check on her daughter.
She used to call her daughter 2 or 3 times a day, every day.
Nobody heard from Cree for like 2 weeks.
The lack of contact with her daughter was a pretty big flag.
It's not her personality to not even speak to her own child.
With a missing persons report in place, police in Greensboro waste no time opening up an official investigation.
Understandably, what they want to do is talk to her boyfriend, Desmond.
Mr. Pendergrass?
Yeah.
We need to ask you some questions about Cree Smith.
Sure, come on in.
The apartment looked lived in. It wasn't particularly clean, but that's not uncommon.
So we spoke with Cree's mother recently. She mentioned she was heading to Miami for a job interview.
Yeah, it was too good of an opportunity.
In his mind, she went down to get a job, got the job, she's doing her thing.
You wouldn't happen to have an address for her down there?
Yeah, hang on a second. Here's this from the bank.
Her bank accounts, the address on them had been changed to an address in Florida.
So now detectives thought maybe Cree's family was worried for no reason.
That's what it looked like. Somebody just left town and put all their stuff in the car and moved to Florida.
I've got to settle things here, and then I'm going to meet up with her down there.
It made sense. This seemed exactly like what she did last time.
We'll be in touch.
Please.
While Desmond's account seems genuine, there's only one way to find out if it's true.
I said, can y'all go inside and check the apartment in Florida to make sure everything was all right?
Detectives enlist the help of their counterparts at the Miami Police Department for a welfare check.
Police show up to the apartment where she's supposed to be staying. They go and knock on the door.
Mrs. Smith, Miami Police.
There's no answer.
It was dark and it looked like nobody was home.
It's a setback that won't deter officers from getting to the truth.
The police go and talk to the manager of the apartment because they want to get in.
What did you say the name was again?
Smith. Cree Asia Smith.
Are you sure that's the right name?
Yes, ma'am.
There's nobody who's living there or who has lived there by the name of Cree.
They don't have any record of her at all.
Cree hasn't moved to Miami. She has vanished without a trace.
It is not a crime to go missing. If you are over 18 years of age, in most states, privacy laws typically protect the rights of adults who voluntarily choose to remain out of contact with family and friends. Unless there's evidence of foul play, or the missing person is potentially a danger to themselves, police are not obligated to inform the family of the missing person's whereabouts if they are located. By July 3rd, 2016, 2 days since her mother filed a missing persons report, detectives investigating the disappearance of Cree Asia Smith believe they've tracked the single mother to an address in Miami, Florida.
Police show up to the apartment that's listed for Cree, where she's supposed to be staying.
But there's no answer to their knock, and no indication that Cree had ever lived there either.
The apartment office was contacted and indicated they had no record of her.
This leaves the cops scratching their heads.
Things get even more puzzling when detectives follow up on the clue that led them to the Miami apartment in the first place.
The address on Cree's bank account had been changed to the Florida address, but according to bank records, it had been done online, and Cree had never actually been in Florida at a branch at all.
So it became kind of obvious that she hadn't actually physically gone to Florida, that perhaps somebody had tried to make it look like she'd gone to Florida.
But who? The obvious first choice is her boyfriend, Desmond Pendergrass.
I mean, all of the information that was from Desmond.
But detectives could not rule out that Cree had been lying when she told Desmond that she was going to Miami.
Maybe she wanted to abandon Greensboro and abandon her relationship with Desmond. All kinds of people run away and leave their situation and try to get a new life.
Cree had actually did this more or less before when she up and moved to North Carolina 2 years earlier.
That's how she was. If she wanted to go somewhere or wanted to do something, she would just up and go.
However, when detectives circle back to Cree's family, they are adamant she didn't disappear on purpose.
Something's wrong, that she would not leave her baby. So I'm thinking, Lord, what could happen? What could be going on?
But without something more concrete, detectives are at a standstill.
Maybe she just ran away to Miami for a break.
Desperate for answers, the family takes matters into their own hands and drives the 500 miles to Greensboro in search of Cree.
My mother and her godmother, Diane, went down there. They made missing poster flyers. They gave it out to people.
We were all trying to find her down there, going around, putting up posters and, you know, asking questions and trying to figure out what happened.
While in Greensboro, Cree's mother and godmother also visit the police station, urging detectives to continue searching for the missing 26-year-old.
They're like, no. This is totally out of the character of Cree to just go missing like this.
Something has happened to Cree because she would never be in a place where her family couldn't contact her about her daughter.
Still, detectives aren't so sure.
When was the last time you spoke to her?
Oh, I believe it was on the 15th. A couple of days after she went back home to North Carolina.
She called me, and it was a strange number, but I answered it anyway, because it was a North Carolina number, and it was her.
Hello? Hey, it's me. I'm sorry I didn't call in when I got in from Jersey.
I said, girl, what happened to you?
Was everything okay? Yes, nothing.
She said, yeah, everything's all right. You know, Desmond's just getting on my nerves. And I said, okay.
I gotta go.
But
I'll talk to you later.
I didn't hear anything else from her. I called her a few times, and then finally, I she texted me and she said, I'm at work. I can't talk to you now, but I'll call you later.
Did she call back?
No.
So if Desmond was getting on her nerves, you think she just left him? Probably made up the Miami story on purpose?
Maybe, but that doesn't explain the rest of it.
She wouldn't lose communication with her family. She wouldn't lose communication with me.
At this point in time, detectives didn't really know what to think, so they decided they needed to learn more about Cree's life with Desmond.
They start by speaking to one of her closest friends, Denise Chrisman.
I first met Cree in Greensboro. From day one, we all clicked. That was like my partner in crime. You never seen Cree without Denise.
When detectives follow up with Denise, she's upfront about the nature of her friend's relationship.
We were into each other, but it wasn't perfect.
There was ups and downs. There was breakups and makeups.
Denise also said that prior to her disappearance, Cree had been hinting that maybe Desmond wasn't the man for her.
She always talked about dating someone that was educated. Or she always talked about wanting somebody that wanted something for themselves.
I think she just left him, told Desmond she's going to Miami.
At first, yeah.
I just was like, she needed a break. And then when I got details of her mom, she was not picking up for her daughter. And her daughter was looking for her, trying to get in contact with her. That's when it all started hitting me.
And I just couldn't shake this feeling. Something happened. Something bad.
She don't go without talking to her daughter.
Like somebody did something to her.
Any idea who?
Yeah.
Denise had a name for detectives, but it wasn't Desmond.
It's Cree's friend, Patricia Bronson.
I'm very suspicious that she was involved.
Why do you think that?
She said she heard from Cree. All that stuff about Cree leaving town.
I'm like, she's telling you she's not coming back. How are you the only one talking to this person? The way she was describing the details of it was like somebody that knows more than what they were saying.
Why would Patricia do something to Cree?
She was pretty obsessed with her.
And according to Denise, Patricia had made moves on Desmond too.
I thought that something was going on because I know how she is.
She basically said she's a flirt, but not an innocent one.
She wanted to be like her. She dressed like her. She acted like her.
She moved in on her man. It seemed like she wanted to take her place.
It's been 2 weeks since 26-year-old Cree Asia Smith vanished from Greensboro, North Carolina, and detectives have a new lead in their investigation.
A friend of Cree's had just implicated a woman named Patricia Bronson as the person behind Cree's disappearance.
There's no doubt. I'm convinced. There's nothing that could change my mind.
According to Denise, Patricia had her eye on Cree's boyfriend, Desmond Pendergrass.
Apparently, Patricia couldn't be very hands-on with Desmond.
Could there be some type of love interest that would have given Patricia a motive to have wanted Cree off the scene?
Whether Desmond realized it or not.
Desmond always was a flirt, but I don't know if her and Desmond had something going on.
With Denise adamant about Patricia's involvement, detectives bring her in for questioning.
How would you describe your relationship with her?
We're pretty tight.
When was the last time you saw her?
Last month, around the 16th or so.
She said the last time she seen Cree was on a Thursday night, early Friday morning. She stated that she was in the apartment with Cree and Desmond.
This was around the same time that Cree had suddenly stopped returning anyone's phone calls.
Though that's not the only thing about Patricia's story that raises a red flag.
Patricia recalled that Cree and Desmond had been fighting, had been arguing.
You have any idea what they were fighting about?
No, they were fussing at each other though.
She did indicate it was not uncommon for them to fight.
But according to Patricia, this one was unusual, even for Cree and Desmond.
So it's like that now?
Girl, don't start with me.
Seriously? Where have you been?
Seriously.
It was getting pretty intense. It was really escalating.
Hold on, Nick. Get the hell out of my damn face.
I should have never messed with you in the first place.
Okay, y'all.
I don't need this.
That's why on this night, the friend asked Cree if she wanted to leave with her.
Come on, just come stay at my house tonight and let him cool off. No. Are you sure?
They'll be fine. Trust me, he'll settle down.
Cree said, I'm okay, I'm stay here. So she left her.
Is that the last you saw her?
Yeah.
Were you worried?
No. I got a text message from her the next morning.
It was Cree saying that a family emergency had come up and she needed to go to New Jersey.
Was that message simply a decoy to disguise the fact that something had happened to Cree in North Carolina? Or had someone actually lured Cree back to New Jersey prior to her disappearance?
And does Patricia know more than she's leading detectives to believe? While detectives can't be sure, her statement gives them a critical data point.
With that, the police were able to establish that that was the last time anybody that we knew of had actually seen Cree. So now we have perhaps a point in time where she becomes missing.
When detectives subpoena the location data for Cree's cell phone, it seems to solve one piece of the puzzle.
Police decided to check the phone records. And what they find is Cree's phone has never left Greensboro.
Even more telling for detectives, the activity on Cree's phone dropped off dramatically after June 16th.
This coincides with the evening that Cree's friend Patricia witnessed her arguing with Desmond.
They saw very few calls, incoming calls, yes, but as I recall, there were just one or two outgoing calls, and they were made shortly after her disappearance, like within a day.
But who was using it? While Cree's phone records can't say for sure, there's one final avenue left for detectives to explore.
They eventually decided to dig a little deeper into her financial records.
Pulling Cree's transaction history proves to be the break detectives need.
There were 2 ATM transactions the early morning after her disappearance.
And guess what ATMs have? Cameras.
A lot was on the line here. Whoever was at that ATM had Cree's debit card.
Was it Cree herself? Had she just gone into hiding, or was it someone else?
You don't just give someone access to all of your money. Whoever had Cree's debit card had likely harmed Cree to get it.
By mid-July of 2016, almost a month after Cree Asia Smith vanished, detectives in Greensboro, North Carolina are on the verge of a breakthrough in the case.
And they found a couple of ATM transactions on her credit card. That really piques their interest.
Transactions that occurred on what detectives now know to be the day after anyone last saw her alive.
They pulled the surveillance footage to see if they could ID who it was that pulled money from her account.
And lo and behold, the person who has been using the bank card is Desmond.
They had been seen arguing right before she went missing. And now police caught him using her ATM card, withdrawing money the next day.
As the facts continue to mount up, it just becomes more and more evident that he may be the one who's responsible for Cree's disappearance.
A check of Desmond's criminal history only adds fuel to this theory.
The first thing that popped up on Desmond was a bad assault over in High Point, a neighboring city from Greensboro, where he had severely beaten a young lady. He had a history of violence. He was the kind of person who, if there was a disagreement, would probably resort to violence first.
Which makes detectives wonder, could the fight Cree's friend Patricia Bronson had witnessed been the tip of the iceberg?
Maybe he was arguing and fussing with her and then just killed her.
Though exactly what the fight was over remains unclear to detectives. They suspect what Cree told her godmother Diane shortly before her disappearance might offer a clue.
I just believe that she got sick of him, and she was trying to get rid of him, and he didn't want to leave.
Though it's not until Cree's close friend, Shaquilla Reyes, comes forward that they learn the real reason why Cree was sick of Desmond.
It had taken Shaquilla a while to get in touch with the police because she had been out of town when Cree first disappeared.
And I went back to Greensboro and I seen that she was missing. I'm like, okay, what's going on?
According to Shaquilla, Cree and Desmond's relationship was marred by distrust and jealousy.
He was always on his phone and texting girls and stuff like that. So she always argued about the phone, his phone. She probably was insecure because he cheated a lot. And I was a witness of some of it, you know, so I know what he did.
In addition to Desmond's infidelity, Shaquilla also said that Cree grew tired of Desmond's freeloading too.
He was not employed, to my knowledge, at the time that she disappeared.
She wants somebody got a job, a car, that somebody can support her.
While Shaquilla's account is compelling, it's not the reason she's chosen to come speak to detectives.
I know he did something to her because Desmond sent me a video recording her while she's on the bed and she wasn't moving. It was before I even knew she was missing. She was face down and her pants was off. And he asked me a question. He said, "Do you like what you see?" Because he know I like girls also.
At the time, Shaquilla thought it was some sort of a joke, but now she's convinced it was something far more sinister.
Then I went back to Greensboro and I seen that she was missing. I'm like, oh my gosh, she looked like she wasn't breathing in that video.
Despite a growing sense that Desmond has done something horrible to Cree, investigators still have no real proof.
We didn't have a dead body, just a missing person. We're trying to develop some evidence that we can present in the courtroom.
Desperate to build a case against Desmond, detectives circle back to what little evidence they do have, starting with her bank records.
They discovered that on the morning after she turned up missing, her debit card had been used at a home improvement store.
They went to the home improvement store and actually were able to pull up the purchase receipt to see what was actually bought.
The items on the receipt are eye-opening and stomach-churning.
Among the things bought were a handsaw and some heavy-duty construction-strength trash bags. That really piqued everybody's interest, like, wow, this might explain some things here.
All but convinced that Cree is dead, detectives figure it's about time they put the screws to Desmond, if they can find him.
I tried to reach out to him on different occasions. He stopped taking my phone calls. He blocked me on social media, so I couldn't say anything to him.
At this point, he's bouncing around.
He's trying to dodge everybody, from the police, my mother, me, Diane, everybody.
After locating Desmond on September 1st, 2 months after Cree was reported missing, detectives finally get the chance to sit him down for questioning.
Hey, we need to ask you some questions about Cree Smith. Have you found her? Not yet. But we're working on it.
Desmond's playing it cool, acting like he's concerned about Cree.
You care to tell us why you're using her debit card?
We're a couple. We use each other's accounts all the time.
Desmond says, hey man, Cree left the card behind with him so he could take care of his expenses and cover bills and that sort of thing.
Detectives don't buy it and decide it's time to take a look at one more piece of potential evidence that they haven't searched yet.
Desmond, why don't you stand up? We're gonna pat you down, make sure you don't have any weapons on you.
Located in his pocket was a set of car keys.
He's driving Cree's car. And that gives police probable cause to go and take a look.
He's not the world's smartest criminal. Showing up with her car was about as careless as you could be.
Desmond's carefully constructed cover-up continues to fall apart when detectives search Cree's vehicle.
Police pop the trunk, and what they find is very telling.
The trunk liner had stains, brownish stains, that appeared to be consistent with blood.
She was still alive. I think I wanted to believe that. I think I wanted to believe that because I didn't want to be hurt. I didn't want to be sad. And then I started thinking about her daughter and her mom and her sisters and her nieces, what they would be going through if they heard that type of news. Like, I didn't want to think about the worst. I was like, no, she's too strong. She's gonna be okay.
On September 1st, 2016, 2.5 months after Cree Asia Smith first disappeared, detectives in Greensboro, North Carolina have just made a startling new discovery.
Police want to follow up with Desmond, and when Desmond shows up, he is driving Cree's car.
The car has what appears to be blood in it, and so it then became, you're under arrest at this time.
With Desmond facing murder charges, detectives press him hard for a confession.
Driving her car with a trunk full of blood. How do you think that's gonna look to a jury? It's not what you think.
According to Desmond, once Patricia left, he and Cree did continue their argument, but he wasn't the aggressor.
He said she was attacking him, and he was trying to defend himself.
You expect us to believe that? Yes, I swear, it's the truth.
She was a rather big girl, bigger than him, and he indicated that he'd gotten her in a chokehold to try to keep her off of him.
Cree, relax, man. I'll let you go, right? Stop fighting. You gotta stop hitting on me too, right? Stop. Stop, Cree.
He says Cree was fighting him back. He was, trying to calm her down, and I ended up suffocating her.
Cree, baby, get up.
He was trying to make it look like he accidentally killed her, and then he freaked out and took her body and dumped it somewhere.
But detectives don't believe a word of it.
If that's going to be your story, the time to get it out is when she's dead. You call 911, and when the police arrive right there, that's when you tell the story. The fact that you wait really diminishes the value of that story.
Whether or not he's telling the truth about how she died, the news of Desmond's confession and arrest does offer some closure to Cree's friends and family, though it can do little to ease their pain.
This is a nightmare that nobody wanted to actually believe.
I was devastated. I felt like how I'm going to tell my niece that her mother's not coming back.
It hurted me so bad. I really wanted him to be gone.
When he said that Cree's dead, I wanted to go down there and kill him. That was my response.
The family may get their wish, too. At Desmond's arraignment, prosecutors make it clear that they plan to seek the maximum punishment the law allows.
Because of his prior violent felony conviction, he was eligible for the death penalty.
The threat of death row is more than enough for Desmond to seek out a deal.
Desmond's lawyer says if you'll take the death penalty off the table, Desmond will show you guys where Cree's body is.
But prosecutors leave that decision up to Cree's family.
The plea was good enough for me. I wanted to see her put to rest so I can say goodbye.
On October 13th, 2016, 4 months after Cree disappeared, Desmond leads detectives to a roadside a half hour outside Greensboro.
He said, this is the spot right here.
They get out and search.
It's not long before they find something.
They see a large trash bag that's kind of caught up in some trees.
Inside are human remains, badly decomposed and partially dismembered.
Her legs had been severed in the upper parts of the thigh, and so her legs were not there.
An autopsy confirms that the remains are Cree's.
The DNA from the remains are compared against DNA from cheek swabs that the family members provided. And sure enough, it's a match.
The medical examiner also determines that strangulation was the probable cause.
It sounded like Desmond's story about choking Cree to death contained at least a grain of truth.
However, contrary to Desmond's claims, police and prosecutors are convinced the crime was no accident.
He either knocked her unconscious or somehow was able to subdue her enough so that he could actually strangle her.
Though once Cree was dead, Desmond found himself in a dilemma.
I would surmise that initially the plan was just to put her in the dumpster, and then he realized how heavy a dead body of that size is, and he was unable to do that.
He then goes out to the home improvement store and gets his supplies, his handsaw, his plastic bags, his duct tape, comes back to the apartment and dismembers Cree.
That totally freaked me out.
You had to be a very cruel person to not only kill her, but cut her up.
Then, once he was finally able to move the body, Desmond had disposed of it on the side of the highway.
He put it in the back of the car and took it 30 miles away from here and pulled over to the side of the road and then rolled it down that embankment.
All while trying to maintain the illusion that Cree is still alive.
Desmond kept the phone active. When people would call, he would let it go to voicemail because he didn't want to speak, obviously. And then select ones, he would actually send a text back.
Desmond was just trying to think quick on his feet. That wasn't quick enough, not for people that knew her. She wouldn't have just left, and she wouldn't have just left her daughter either.
On June 26, 2018, Desmond pleads guilty to murder in exchange for life in prison without the possibility of parole.
He can't do anything else. He can't hurt anyone else. And that's the good thing about it.
Still, Cree's friends and family struggle to understand the pain he's already put them through.
I really don't know why he did it. Why could you just walk away? You didn't think about your future. You didn't think about her daughter. You didn't think about her family.
Now Cree's daughter has to grow up without her loving mother, but thankfully, she is surrounded by her caring family.
A mother, a friend, a sister, an auntie. You took all that.
I miss you, baby. And I ain't gonna never let you die in spirit.
This hard-working single mom thought she'd found true love.
They connected so quickly.
He took care of her kids.
It was going to be an amazing future.
Instead, it ended in a horrific crime.
Hello, I need to talk now.
She was on the floor, bound by the hands and legs.
She had a plastic bag around her head.
They think the person's dead.
But how did it happen?
She went out to a club.
You could be in danger just because you were out having fun. She was a beautiful girl. She got a lot of attention.
Did someone follow her home?
Or was the trouble already there?
There are some guys who are very possessive.
The Trotter Chronicles, From Gold to Grit, a novelization by Gemini. Prologue, The Man in the Sharp Suit. The air in the office was thick with the scent of expensive mahogany and the faint, clinical aroma of high-end air purifiers. Justin, a man whose skin looked like it had been buffed by a professional at a Swiss spa, leaned back in his leather chair. He adjusted his glasses, looking at the two men sitting across from him. One of them, Derek Delboy Trotter, was a man who looked like he belonged in a very different kind of office one, with a calendar of a local garage on the wall and the lingering smell of cigar smoke and hopeful desperation. Del was dressed in what he considered his business best, a suit that shimmered just a bit too much under the fluorescent lights, and enough gold jewelry to make a pirate blush. Next to him sat Rodney, younger, leaner, and perpetually looking like he had just realized he'd left the oven on at home. Rodney was sweating, not the confident sweat of an athlete, but the cold, clammy moisture of a man who knew his brother was about to say something that would embarrass them both for the next century. "I've got all the basic details about your business career," Justin began, his voice smooth and devoid of any Peckham grit. "But what I'd like to do is to get an insight into the real you, how you started, how you became so successful, but more importantly, your lives and your raison d'etre." Del Boy's eyes lit up. He didn't know what a raison d'etre was, but it sounded French, and in Del's world, French meant class. "Oh, no," Del whispered to Rodney, "Laboratory Garney." Rodney closed his eyes and prayed for the floor to open. "It's not Laboratory Garney. Del," he hissed, "he's asking for our reason for being." "Exactly what I said. Prove," Del snapped back, before turning to Justin with a smile that could sell ice to an Eskimo and then charge him for the delivery. "Well, Justin, where shall I start? Up to a few years ago, we were just very ordinary people living, well, very ordinary lives, weren't we, Rodney?" And so the story began. A story of a watch found in a garage, a fortune made in an instant, and a fall so spectacular it made the Hindenburg look like a minor fender bender. Chapter 1, The Caribbean Dream. The sun over Barbados didn't just shine, it announced itself. It turned the turquoise water into a sheet of diamonds and the white sand into something so bright it hurt to look at without designer sunglasses, which, of course, the Trotters were wearing. Only a few months prior, the Trotters had been living in a council flat in Peckham, wondering if the hooky VCers they were selling would last through the first reel of Rambo. Then came the watch, an 18th century Harrison marine chronometer hidden in their garage for decades. It had sold at Sotheby's for £6.5 million. In an instant, Derek Trotter, the man who once sold one-legged turkeys at Christmas, was a multimillionaire. "Look at this, Rodney," Del had said, leaning over the balcony of their private villa. He was holding a glass of something blue with a miniature umbrella in it. Total luxury. This is what we were born for. Mange tout, Rodney, mange tout. Rodney was sitting in a hammock, trying to read a book on sociology, but failing because Cassandra kept applying sun cream to his back. It's a bit much, isn't it, Del? I mean, 6 months ago we were sharing a bathroom with a leak that Uncle Albert called characterful. Characterful. It was a health hazard. Del laughed. But look at us now. We've divvied the dosh up. We made sure Uncle Albert got a nice little drink, figuratively speaking, though knowing him. He's probably literally drinking most of it down on the coast with Elsie Partridge. They had been the kings of the island. They donated to charity mostly because Del liked the gala dinners, and they invested. Oh, how they invested. Del had met a man in a bar. A visionary, Del called him. A con artist, Rodney had countered. The man spoke of Central American markets, of vibrant ventures, and emerging economies. He spoke of turning millions into billions. It was a royal mint. Rodney, Del shouted into the tropical wind. We were making money while we slept. But the Caribbean sun has a way of blinding you to the clouds on the horizon. Chapter 2. The Sound of the Crash. The end didn't come with a bang. It came with a phone call and a decline message on a credit card at a 5-star hotel. What do you mean? Insufficient funds. Del had barked at the hotel manager, his gold rings clacking against the marble countertop. Do you know who I am? I'm Derek Trotter. I've got more money than the Sultan of Brunei's paperboy. The manager was polite but firm. The Central American market hadn't just dipped, it had evaporated. A coup, a currency collapse, and a series of creative accounting errors by their visionary friend had turned the Trotter fortune into a pile of worthless digital ash. Rodney, Del whispered, his face turning a shade of gray that matched the London fog they had tried so hard to escape. The negotiations. They've collapsed. Collapsed. Rodney felt his stomach drop. Del, we put everything into that venture. The houses, the stocks, the peacocks. I know, Del said, his bravado finally cracking. We've even paid for this hotel on a credit card. A credit card which has now been withdrawn. The journey back to the UK was a blur of cramped airplane seats and the crushing realization that the dream was over. They weren't returning to a hero's welcome. They were returning to a financial wilderness. And it wasn't just them. Back in Peckham, the ripples of their failure were turning into waves. Michael Fisher, the landlord of the Nag's Head and a man who had trusted Del with his life savings, was now behind bars. He had remortgaged the pub to follow the Trotter gold mine, and when it collapsed, he had tried to recoup the losses by embezzling from the brewery. He was a desperate man, and Del felt the weight of every brick in Mike's prison cell. Chapter 3. The Court of Peckham. The corridors of the courthouse felt like a tomb. Denzel, a man whose nerves were usually held together by habit and hope, was pacing so fast he was nearly burning a hole in the linoleum. Denzel, sit down, Albert's voice echoed. Denzel stopped and looked at the group gathered. There was Trigger, looking as vacant as a Sunday morning in a library. There was Boyke, looking smug despite the circumstances. And there was Sid, the cafe owner, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. I can't, Albert, Denzel groaned. I've never been a character witness before. I'm worried. I think Dole's made a terrible mistake. Having us for here, it's like inviting the Manson family to dinner. Don't be so dramatic, Trigger said, staring at a fly on the wall. I'm going to tell them I hear voices. Trigger, you're not the one on trial, Denzel hissed. I know, Trigger replied simply, but I still hear voices. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was even grimmer. The Inland Revenue was a beast that didn't care about mange tout or lovely jubbly. They wanted their pound of flesh, and they wanted it in sterling. Dell and Rodney stood before the judge. The properties were gone. The cars were gone. The peacocks had probably been repossessed by a very confused bailiff. Are there any mitigating circumstances? Their lawyer asked. Dell stepped forward, adjusting his tie. Oh, yes, you must remember to tell them that we were slaves to detail, wouldn't you? Rodney, we made certain that we always got our checks off to the Inland Revenue on time. Always, Rodney added, his voice cracking. Fair dues, Dell whispered as the judge looked down at them. They bounced, but they was always on time. The verdict was swift. Bankruptcy. They weren't going to prison, not yet, but they were being stripped of everything. The debt stood at $48,750 for pounds. It was a number that haunted those dreams. It wasn't just money, it was the price of his pride. Chapter 4, The Wrong Gentleman. Amidst the financial ruins, a personal tragedy struck. Uncle Albert, the man who had survived the Battle of the Atlantic only to be nearly killed by those cooking 1,000 times, had passed away. The funeral was a somber affair, or it should have been. The Trotters arrived at the cemetery, faces long and hearts heavy. I feel bad, you know, Dell whispered to Rodney as they walked toward the open grave, leaving him here on his own while we was all off globe-trotting. He wasn't on his own, Dell, Rodney said. He had Elsie. He was happy. They stood by the grave, listening to the vicar speak of a man named Bunny who had served in the RAF. Bunny, Dell frowned. Why did he call him Bunny? Well, that's what they called him in the RAF, didn't they? A stranger next to them whispered, because his surname was Warren. Dell froze. He looked at the headstone. He looked at the grieving widow, who was definitely not Elsie Partridge. He looked at the photo of the deceased man who looked remarkably like Albert, but was missing the signature during the war beard. Rodney, Dell hissed, his eyes wide. Is that a Spitfire on the coffin? Yeah, Rodney whispered back. We're at the wrong funeral. They retreated with the quiet dignity of two men who had just realized they were mourning a complete stranger. It was the perfect metaphor for their lives, showing up with good intentions, only to realize they were in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong dead relative. Chapter 5, New Management. Back at Nelson Mandela House, the flat felt smaller than it used to. The wallpaper was peeling, and the ghost of their millionaire lifestyle lingered in the form of a single, half-empty bottle of expensive cognac. The firm's been liquidated, Rodney said, staring at the kitchen table. Trotter's Independent Traders is no more. It's Capit. No, 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 Dell said, his mind racing. The firm can go on trading. It's just that I've been disqualified from running it. That doesn't mean to say I can't work for it. He looked at Rodney, really looked at him. We need a new managing director, Dell mused. Someone young, someone enthusiastic, someone full of ideas. Rodney looked around the room. Who? The window cleaner. No, Rodney, you. Rodney's jaw dropped. Me? Dell, I can't run a company. I can't even run a bath without getting a headache. Legally, there is nothing to stop you, Dell insisted. You're clean. No bankruptcy, no disqualification. You'd be the boss. Rodney Trotter, managing director. And so, the power dynamic shifted. Within days, the local paper carried a small advertisement, Trotter's Independent Traders, now under new management. Managing Director, Rodney Trotter. Rodney took to the role with a terrifying level of seriousness. He started wearing a tie at breakfast. He spoke about executive stress and logistical paradigms. He even tried to listen to Mozart to unwind. Mozart's Symphony No. 38 in D major. Rodney explained to Trigger one evening in the flat. I find it helps me ease my executive stress. Trigger nodded slowly. Ain't there no words to this, Dave? No, Trigger, it's instrumental. Dell watched his brother with a mix of pride and annoyance. He was back in the game, even if he was technically just the staff. But the debt to the taxman still loomed. They needed a big score. They needed a miracle. And then the phone rang. Chapter 6, The Gold Rush. The studio lights were blinding. Jonathan Ross, a man who seemed to be made of charisma and expensive hair products, smiled at the camera. Welcome to Gold Rush, he announced, the fastest game show on TV. This is the show where you can win anything from £1 to 100,000 pounds. In the contestant's seat sat Derek Trotter. He had lied about his hobbies, claiming to love 16th century Italian Renaissance art instead of seeing what fell off the back of a lorry. And he had navigated the early rounds with the cunning of a street fox. He reached the final stages. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knockoff Swiss Army knife. For 50,000 pounds, Derek Jonathan Ross said, leaning in. Which classical guitarist wrote the opera The Child and the Enchantment? Was it Ravel, Segovia, or Rodrigo? Dell felt the sweat prickling under his shimmery suit. He knew this, or he thought he knew it, but his brain was a jumble of French phrases and Peckham market prices. I'm going to have to use me old SOS, aren't I? Dell said, his voice trembling. I'll call my brother, Rodney. Back at the flat, Rodney and Cassandra were dressed in their fantasy therapy outfits, Rodney as a gladiator and Cassandra as a police officer. It was supposed to be a quiet night of memory baggage unloading. The phone screamed. Hello, Rodney snapped, assuming it was their annoying neighbor, Mickey Pierce. Piss off, Mickey, you're getting on my tits now. Rodney, it's Jonathan Ross. The silence that followed was deafening. Rodney realized he had just told one of the most famous men in Britain to piss off. Rodney, we need your help, Jonathan said, hurried. Derek is on 25,000. Going for 50. Which classical guitarist wrote the opera The Child and the Enchantment? Was it Ravel, Segovia, or Rodrigo? Rodney didn't hesitate. He had to GCEs. He had been listening to Mozart for a week. He was an executive. Ravel, Rodney said with absolute certainty. 100%. Dell, it's Ravel. Dell turned back to the camera, his chest puffed out. I'll go with that, Jonathan. It's Ravel. Jonathan Ross looked at him with a face full of pity. Derek, that was the wrong answer. It was Rodrigo. The world seemed to stop spinning. Dell's face went through every shade of red known to man. He had lost it all. Again. On national television. Chapter 7, The Phoenix of Peckham. The silence in the flat that night was heavy. Dell sat on the sofa, still wearing his game show suit, staring at the floor. Raquel was in the kitchen, and Rodney was hiding in his room, probably trying to find a way to dismantle his gladiator armor without making a sound. The phone rang. If that's Mickey Pierce, Dell growled, picking it up. I'm going to murder him. Hello, is this Derek Trotter? A voice asked. It sounded professional. This is the producer of Gold Rush. Dell rolled his eyes. Oh, give it a rest, Mickey. I can hear the jukebox in the Nag's Head from here. No, Mr. Trotter. This is serious. We've made a mistake. Our researchers checked the facts. Ravel did write the music for The Child and the Enchantment. Even though he's a composer and not primarily a guitarist, the question was flawed. Dell sat up straight. A mistake? You mean? I was right? You were right. We're offering you the 50,000 pounds, or the chance to come back and play for the 100,000. Dell looked at the room. He looked at Rodney, who had peeked his head out of the bedroom door. He looked at Raquel, who was standing in the doorway with hope in her eyes. Give all the money to charity. Dell shouted into the phone, his old bravado returning in a rush of adrenaline. And if you phone here once again, I'm going to come down there and kick your arse into shredded duck. Goodbye." He slammed the phone down. Del, Rodney screamed, "What are you doing? That was 50 grand. Del started to laugh, a deep, wheezing Peckham laugh. It was Mickey Pierce, Rodney. I could hear the jukebox. He thought he could wind me up, but nobody winds up Derek Trotter. He stood up, adjusting his cuffs. "We're the Trotters, Rodney. We don't need charity. We're back in business. New management, new ideas. This time next year." Rodney sighed, but he couldn't help but smile. "We'll be millionaires?" "No," Del said, throwing an arm around his brother's shoulder. "This time next year, we'll be debt free. And that, Rodney, is bonjour." "It's bonjour, Del," Rodney corrected. "Exactly what I said. Prove exactly what I said." The neon sign of the Nag's Head flickered in the distance, a beacon of hope in the heart of Peckham. The Trotters were down, but they were never out. Because as long as there was a deal to be made and a brother to blame, the dream would never die. Chapter 8: The Cold Light of Day. The following morning did not bring the clarity Del Boy had hoped for. Instead, it brought a pounding headache and the lingering suspicion that he might have made a catastrophic tactical error. He sat at the formica table in the kitchen, nursing a mug of tea that was mostly sugar. Rodney stumbled in, looking disheveled. "Del," Rodney said, his voice flat, "I've been thinking about that phone call last night." "Forget it, Rodney," Del snapped. Mickey Pierce, professional wind-up merchant, probably recorded the whole thing to play at the pub later. Low D toilet, Rodney. Water under the bridge. "Del, I went to the pub this morning to get some milk because the fridge is on the blink again. And Mickey Pierce was there. He looked as miserable as a rainy Tuesday in Margate. Apparently, his latest business venture selling laser-cut toast just failed. He didn't even have enough credit on his phone to make a prank call." Del froze, his mug halfway to his lips. "What?" "And there's more. Sid showed me the morning paper. There's a small headline on page 12. Game show blunder. BBC apologizes to Peckham contestant over classical music gaffe." The silence in the kitchen was heavy. You could hear the distant rumble of the 171 bus and the slow, rhythmic dripping of the leaky tap. So, Del whispered, his voice barely audible, "It wasn't Nicky. It was the producer. Del, you told the BBC to give £50,000 to charity in the name of the Trotters." Del Boy put his mug down. He stared at the wall, at the framed picture of their mother. "Well," he said, his voice suddenly bright and brittle, At least we'll get a plaque, or a mention in the newsletter. It's tax deductible, ain't it?" "We don't pay tax, Del. We're bankrupt," Rodney shouted. "Details, Rodney, details." Del stood up, pacing the small kitchen. This is just a temporary setback, a minor hiccup in the grand tapestry of Trotter fortunes. We're under new management. Remember, managing director Rodney Trotter. What's our first move, boss? Rodney looked at the pile of unpaid bills on the counter. Our first move is to find something to sell. Something that doesn't involve the Sultan of Brunei or the BBC. Chapter 9, The Electronic Revolution. Rodney's first official act as managing director was to meet with Monkey Harris. Monkey was a man who lived up to his name short, agile, and always looking for a way to climb a bit higher on the social ladder. He met Rodney in the back of a van parked behind the Nag's Head. "I've got a consignment." Rodney, Monkey whispered, opening a cardboard box. "Electronic personal organizers. Top of the range. They tell the time, store 500 names, and have a built-in calculator. They're selling like crazy in the West End." Rodney picked one up. It was a sleek, black plastic device that looked like something from a low-budget sci-fi movie. "How much?" "For you. A tenner apiece. I've got 200 of them." Rodney calculated. 200 at 10 pounds was 2,000. If they sold them for 30, that was for 1,000 pounds profit. It wasn't 50,000, but it was a start. "I'll take them," Rodney said, trying to sound executive. "But I'll need to pay in installments. Cash flow. You understand?" Monkey nodded. "I understand. Cash flow is the soul of business. I'll drop them off at Nelson Mandela House tonight." When Rodney returned to the flat, he found Del Boy trying to fix the washing machine with a bent coat hanger. "Good news, Del. I've secured our first inventory. Electronic personal organizers. The future of business. We're going to modernize Peckham, one address book at a time." Del looked at the device. "Electronic organizers. People round here can barely organize a trip to the toilet. Rodney, who's going to buy these?" "Everyone. Busy professionals, students, anyone who needs to stay on top of their game. It's executive stress management. Del, der chic." Del said, his eyes narrowing. "They look a bit plastic. Are they waterproof?" "Why would they need to be waterproof?" "In case it rains on the market stall. Rodney, think avoirdupois." Chapter 10, Iconoclastic Autosuggestion. While the business world was being revolutionized by plastic organizers, the domestic world of the Trotters was entering the realm of fantasy therapy. Cassandra had insisted. After the stress of the bankruptcy and the game show disaster, she felt their relationship needed a reboot. She had found a book by an American psychologist who spoke of memory baggage and the need to create our own make-believe world. Iconoclastic autosuggestion. Rodney explained to Del Boy while they were sorting the organizers. It's about rejecting reality and becoming different people, just for an evening. Sounds like what I've been doing for 40 years. Rodney, Dell quipped. What's the catch? We write down our fantasy figures, and then we become them. No dressing up. It's all in the mind. But as with everything in the Trotter household, the no dressing up rule was the first to go. Thursday night arrived. Dell had agreed to take Raquel and Damien out to see a film, giving Rodney and Cassandra the flat to themselves. Or so Rodney thought. I'm taking them to see that new cartoon, Dell said, adjusting his coat. The one about the singing fish. We'll be back late. Enjoy your auto-suggestion. Rodney waited until the door closed. He went to his bedroom and emerged 10 minutes later wearing a leather skirt, a plastic chest plate, and sandals. He looked like he had been rejected from a high school production of Spartacus. Cassandra emerged from the bathroom. She was wearing a police uniform, complete with a hat and a plastic truncheon. Rodney, she gasped. I thought we said no dressing up. I couldn't help it. Cass, the book said to fully immerse yourself. I'm Russell Crowe in Gladiator. And I'm a detective from the Bill. Cassandra sighed. You look different. Strength and honor, Cassandra, Rodney said, striking a pose that nearly caused his chest plate to pop off. Now, let us unload our baggage. They sat on the sofa, trying to be reborn. But the atmosphere was somewhat dampened by the smell of Dill's lingering cigar smoke and the faint sound of the neighbors' heavy metal music. So, Rodney began, trying to deepen his voice. On my signal, unleash the feelings. Rodney, I don't feel like a detective. I feel like an idiot. That's just the memory baggage talking. Reject it. You are an officer of the law. I am a hero of Rome. Suddenly, the front door burst open. We're back, Del Boy shouted, stumbling in with Raquel and Damien. The cinema was full. Apparently, every kid in Peckham wants to see a singing fish. He stopped dead. He looked at Rodney. He looked at Cassandra. Oh, my God, Del whispered, his eyes widening. Rodney, what have you done to her? Is she arresting you? It's therapy, Del, Rodney hissed, trying to hide behind a cushion. Go away. Therapy, you look like you're about to fight a lion in a police station. Del started to laugh. A deep, wheezing sound. Raquel, come and see this. Russell Crowe and the Bill are having a meeting in our front room. The fantasy was officially over. Reality hadn't just returned. It had kicked the door down and started laughing at them. Chapter 11, The Sultan's Shadow. A few days later, the executive stress was reaching a fever pitch. Marketers in Peckham were apparently resistant to digital organization. Rodney was sitting at the kitchen table, Mozart playing softly in the background, when the phone rang. Trotter's Independent Traders, Managing Director Rodney Trotter speaking, he said, trying to sound bored and important. "Good evening," a voice said with a thick, exotic accent. "I am wishing to speak with managing director." Rodney's eyes narrowed. "This is he. Who is calling?" "My name is Asif Hazen. I am representative of Sultan of Brunei." Rodney rolled his eyes. He looked at Del Boy, who was pretending to read the paper but was clearly listening. "The Sultan of Brunei," Rodney repeated loudly. "Well, how can I be of assistance, sir?" "His Highness has seen your advertisement in the newspaper. He is very impressed with your party planning and consultancy." "Is he now?" Rodney smirked. "And what does His Highness want? Does he want me to fly out and organize a palace warming?" "Exactly. He wants you to fly to Brunei. All expenses paid. He has bought a crappy old three-wheeled van, and he wants to know where to start it on cold mornings." Rodney's smirk vanished. He slammed the phone down. "Shove it, Mickey," he yelled at the dead line. "Just shove it." "What happened?" Del asked, looking up. "Dave's just had a big row with the Sultan of Brunei. It was Mickey Pierce. Del, I could hear the jukebox. He thinks he's so clever using an accent." But as Rodney sat back down, his Mozart symphony reached a crescendo. He looked at the advertisement he had placed. He had listed consultancy and party planning. It was a professional advert. He looked at the phone. For a fleeting second, he wondered, what if the Sultan of Brunei really did have an old van? What if he really did need a consultant from Peckham? "Del," Rodney whispered, "do you think—" "Don't worry, Rodney," Del said, patting him on the shoulder. "The world's full of surprises. Look at Nicky Pierce, he's only just learned to read." They sat in the quiet flat to brothers bound by blood, bankruptcy, and a never-ending cycle of nearly and almost. They were back where they started, in Nelson Mandela House, with a mountain of debt and a box of plastic organizers. But as the neon sign of the Nags had flickered outside, Del Boy looked at his brother. "This time next year, Rodney," he said, the old spark returning to his eyes, "this time next year, we'll have sold all them organizers. We'll be back on top. Mange tout, Rodney, mange tout." And in the heart of Peckham, that was enough. Chapter 12, The Ghost of Mickey Pierce. The weight of the charity call hung over the flat like a thick London fog that refused to lift. Del Boy tried to carry himself with his usual swagger, but every time he passed a television, he felt a phantom pain in his wallet. 50,000 pounds gone with a single, ego-driven outburst. "I could have bought a new van, Rodney," Del whispered, staring into his lukewarm tea. "A yellow one, with leather seats, and a heater that actually works." "You gave it away, Del," Rodney said, not looking up from his latest business management book. "You wanted to look like a big man. Well, congratulations. You're the biggest man in the soup kitchen." Rodney was trying to embrace his role as managing director, But the reality of the market stall was far from the corporate boardrooms he envisioned. The electronic organizers were currently sitting in the hallway, taking up space and gathering dust. We need a marketing strategy, Rodney announced, standing up. We can't just stand on a street corner and shout. We need to target the high-end demographic of Peckham. Dell snorted. The high-end demographic of Peckham is anyone who's still got all their own teeth. Rodney, just get M down to the market. I'll do the patter. No, I'm the MD. I'll do the patter. You can be the logistics coordinator. The what? Rodney, I've been selling since you were in nappies. I could sell a no-entry sign to a getaway driver. But Rodney was insistent. He wanted to prove he was more than just a bone marrow donor in a cheap suit. He spent the evening practicing his executive voice, much to Raquel's amusement and Dul's irritation. The next morning, the market was bustling. Rodney stood behind the stall, looking stiff and uncomfortable in a trench coat he thought looked professional. Dell stood to the side, arms folded, waiting for the inevitable. Step right up, ladies and gentlemen, Rodney shouted, his voice cracking slightly. Experience the future of personal management. The Trotter 3000 electronic organizer. Stores 500 names. Calculates. Tells the time in Tokyo. A woman in a headscarf stopped and looked at the black plastic device. Does it tell me when the 171 bus is coming? Well, no, Rodney stammered. But it can store the bus timetable if you type it in. I can't type, she said, moving on. And I don't know anyone in Tokyo. Del Boy stepped forward, unable to restrain himself any longer. Oi, darling, come back. Don't listen to him. He's just the apprentice. Look at this, it's not just an organizer. It's a status symbol. It shows the world you're a person of substance. And look at doubles as a very stylish paperweight for your betting slips. He grabbed one and held it high. Normally 30 quid, but today, because my brother here has just been released from a psychiatric institute, and I'm feeling sorry for him, 15 quid, for 25. Within 10 minutes, Dell had sold 3. Rodney watched in a mixture of awe and resentment. The executive dream was slipping away, replaced by the familiar grit of the Peckham hustle. Chapter 13, The Road Sweepers Union. As the weeks dragged on, the organizers sold in drips and drabs. But the mountain of debt to the inland revenue remained immovable. The threat of bailiffs was no longer a distant worry. It was a looming shadow that darkened every conversation. Raquel's right, Dell, Rodney said one evening, looking defeated. Trigger said they're recruiting down at the depot. Road sweeping. The pay is steady. Del Boy looked like he had been slapped. Road sweeping. Me, Derek Trotter, the man who once had peacocks on his lawn. I'm a trader, Rodney, an entrepreneur. You're a bankrupt entrepreneur. Del, we need money. Real money. Not this time next year money. Dell looked around the flat. He saw the peeling wallpaper, the half-empty bottles, and the tired look in Raquel's eyes. The bravado he had worn like armor for decades was finally starting to rust. "I'll help you fill in the form," Rodney offered, his voice softening. "Me?" Dell shouted. "I wasn't talking about me. You're the one who needs a job. You're young. You're fit. You can push a broom from here to Lewisham." "I'm the managing director," Rodney protested. "Exactly. And part of managing a company is diversifying your income streams. Now, go on, get the pen, and see if they've got any vacancies for a logistics consultant with his own high-vis vest." The tension in the flat was broken by a knock at the door. It was Trigger. "All right, Dave," Trigger said, nodding to Rodney. "It's Rodney, Trigger." "Yeah, whatever. Dell, I heard you were looking for a bit of work. My supervisor says he's got a spot on the night shift. It's mostly quiet. Just you and the broom. Gives you plenty of time to hear the voices." Del Boy closed his eyes. The image of himself in an orange vest, sweeping up kebab wrappers at 3 a.m., was the final indignity. "Thanks, Trig," Del said, his voice surprisingly quiet. I'll think about it." After Trigger left, Del sat by the window, looking out at the estate. He thought about the watch, the millions, the Barbados sun. It all felt like a dream someone else had dreamt. "Rodney," Del said, his eyes still fixed on the horizon. "Did I really tell them to give that 50 grand to charity?" "You did. Del, you were brilliant. The whole country thinks you're a saint." Del smiled, a small, sad flick of the lips. "A saint with no shoes, eh? Well, at least I'm a saint. Say lavi, Rodney. Say lavi." Chapter 14, The Final Word. The interview with Justin was drawing to a close. The high-end office felt even more alien now that the story had been told. The mahogany desk seemed colder, the air purifiers more sterile. Justin adjusted his glasses, scribbling a final note in his leather-bound notebook. "It's a fascinating journey, Mr. Trotter, from the heights of sudden wealth to the current situation. But tell me, do you regret it? The watch, the investment, the charity call?" Del Boy leaned forward. The gold on his fingers caught the light. He looked at Rodney, then back at Justin. "Regret it," Del said, his voice regaining its familiar resonance. "Justin, my son, life is like a market stall. Sometimes you're selling silk, and sometimes you're selling scrap. But the point is, you're always in the game." Rodney shifted in his seat, looking at his brother with a mix of exasperation and pride. "We had the world in our hands for a minute," Del continued. "And yeah, we dropped it. But we're trotters. We're like those little rubber balls you get in the 50p machines. The harder you hit us against the pavement, the higher we bounce." He stood up, smoothing his shimmering suit. I've got a warehouse full of electronic organizers that are going to revolutionize the world of personal management. I've got a managing director who's got more ideas than a patent office. And I've got a family that, well, they're the only thing that's actually worth $6.5 million. Justin stood up, offering his hand. Thank you, Derek. It's been an insight. I'll be in touch. As they walked out of the office and into the cool London air, Rodney turned to Dell. So, what now, MD? Del Boy looked at the yellow Capri parked at the curb. It was old, it was battered, but it was theirs. Now, Rodney, Del said, his eyes sparkling with a new scheme. Now we go to the Nag's Head. I think I know a bloke who's looking for 200 slightly water-damaged electronic organizers. He's a Lap's laptop salesman. And I think he's a fan of Ravel. Rodney sighed, shaking his head. You never learn, do you? Learn? Rodney, my boy, if I learned, I'd be bored. Mange tout, Rodney, mange tout. And as they drove off into the Peckham sunset, the neon sign of the Nag's Head flickered to life, welcoming them back to the only world they truly understood. Chapter 15, The Nag's Head Debrief. The Nag's Head was exactly as they had left it, dimly lit, smelling of stale lager and failed dreams, and populated by the usual suspects. Sid was behind the bar, looking as if he'd personally invented misery, while Trigger sat in his usual corner, nursing a half pint of something that looked like swamp water. Del Boy burst through the doors, his shimmering suit reflecting the flickering neon lights. Behind him, Rodney followed, looking like a man who had just survived a high-stakes interrogation which, in a way, he had. A round for my friends, Sid, Del shouted, slapping a 5-pound note onto the counter. And make 'em large ones. We've just been to the top of the mountain and come back with the view. Sid didn't look up from his glass polishing. The mountain, last I heard, you were at the bottom of a bankruptcy hole. Del, that 5-pound note wouldn't even buy you a ticket out of Peckham. Details, Sid, details. Del laughed, grabbing to brandies. He walked over to Trigger. All right. Trig, you missed it. We just had a meeting with a high-flying biographer. He wanted the inside scoop on the Trotter Empire. Trigger nodded slowly, his eyes vacant. Did he ask about the voices? Del, no. Trig, he didn't. But he was very impressed with our raison d'etre. Your what? Our reason for being, Trig, Rodney intervened, sitting down. Not that Del actually knows what it means. I know exactly what it means, Rodney. Del snapped. It means we're still here, ain't we? Against all the odds. The taxman, the game shows, the Sultan of Brunei, they've all tried to knock us down. But we're like a pair of bad pennies. Boyke walked into the pub then, looking as smug as a man who had just sold a rusty tractor for the price of a Ferrari. Ah, the Trotter brothers, back from the financial wilderness. I see. I hear you've been disqualified from running companies. Derek, a bit of a choker, that. Not disqualified, Boyke, Dell said, leaning back. Under new management, meet the managing director of Trotter's Independent Traders, Rodney Trotter, esque. Boyke let out a dry, rattling laugh. Rodney, running a company, I've seen more business acumen in a damp sponge. What's the first item on the agenda, Rodney? A national shortage of lanky idiots? Rodney went red. Actually, Boyke, we've just secured a major consignment of high-end electronic personal organizers. We're modernizing the Peckham retail sector. Electronic organizers. Boyke sneered. My dog has better organization than anyone in this pub. Who's going to buy them? People with ambition. Boyke, Dell said, his eyes narrowing. People like you. Tell you what, since we're old mates, I'll let you have a dozen for a special insider price. Think of the prestige. I'll think of the bankruptcy court. Derek, Boyke said, turning away. Enjoy your empire. Chapter 16, The Executive Lunch. Monday morning arrived with the relentless grayness of a Peckham winter. Rodney, now fully committed to his role as managing director, decided it was time to establish a new corporate culture. This involved an executive lunch with Cassandra at the local Italian restaurant, though his expense account was currently a handful of loose change and a half-punched loyalty card for the kebab shop. It's about prestige, Cassandra, Rodney explained as they sat at a table with a checked cloth that hadn't been washed since the 70s. A managing director needs to be seen in the right places. It builds confidence. Cassandra looked at her menu, then at Rodney's trench coat. Rodney, we're in a cafe that calls spaghetti Italian noodles, and you're bankrupt. Maybe confidence isn't what we should be building right now. Maybe we should be building a savings account. We will, once the organizers start moving. Dell says he's found a niche market. The niche market being people who don't realize they're being ripped off. Rodney sighed. You have no faith. Cass, this is the new Trotter era. No more hooky gear. No more midnight runs. We're going legit. Suddenly, the door burst open and Del Boy walked in, looking frantic. He was carrying a cardboard box that was leaking a mysterious, dark fluid. Rodney, thank God I found you. Del panted, sliding into the booth next to them. The organizers, we've got a problem. What problem? Rodney's executive comm shattered. The warehouse. Well, when I say warehouse, I mean the shed behind the Nag's Head. It had a bit of a leak, and the waterproof boxes. Well, they weren't. Rodney looked at the box. The dark fluid was soaking into the tablecloth. Del, are they ruined? Not ruined. Just seasoned. I've spoken to a bloke who says if we leave them in a warm oven for 20 minutes, they'll be as good as new. But we need a warm oven. and ours is currently being used by Raquel to dry the laundry. Cassandra put her head in her hands. The new legit era. It lasted exactly 45 minutes. It's a minor setback, Dell insisted, grabbing a breadstick. I've already started the remarketing. The Trotter 3000. Now with added humidity sensors. It's a feature. Rodney, people pay extra for features. Chapter 17, The Skip of Destiny. While Rodney was dealing with the damp organizers, Del Boy was on the hunt for a new opportunity. This usually involved driving the yellow Capri around the back streets of Peckham, looking for skips that looked promising. You never know what people throw away. Raquel, Del said as he poked her out a large metal container outside a derelict office building. One man's rubbish is another man's. Well, another man's profit margin. He pulled out a tangled mess of copper wire and a dusty, ornate frame that looked like it belonged in a haunted house. Look at this. It's a genuine Victorian. Something, probably priceless. Del, it's a broken picture frame with dry rot. Raquel said, staying in the van. And it's covered in pigeon droppings. Character, Raquel. It's called patina. People in the West End pay thousands for patina. I'll get Rodney to research it. He's the MD now. He needs to earn his keep. Back at the flat, Rodney was staring at the copper wire. Del, this isn't an opportunity. This is theft from a demolition site. It's recycling. Rodney, we're being green. We're saving the planet while we save the family firm. Now, look at this frame. What does it say to you? Rodney looked at the crumbling wood. It says tetanus. Del. No, it says heritage. I want you to go down to the library and find out if any famous painters lived in this area. If we can link this frame too. Say, Constable or Turner. Well, Bonjour, Rodney. We're back in the millions. Del, Constable painted Haywains in Suffolk, not tower blocks in Peckham. Maybe he had a holiday home here. Just look it up. And while you're at it, see if you can find out how much scrap copper is going for. I've got a feeling our luck is about to change. Chapter 18, Trigger's Wisdom. Late that night, Del found himself back at the Nag's Head. Rodney had gone home to argue with Cassandra about the ethics of scrap metal, and Raquel was busy with Damien. Del needed a sympathetic ear, and as usual, Trigger was the only one available. Trig, Del said, staring into his brandy. Do you think I'm a failure? I mean, look at me. Bankrupt. Sweeping roads mentally. If not literally yet. Managing director of a company that's currently storing damp address books in a kitchen oven. Trigger blinked slowly. I don't think you're a failure. Del, you've got a nice suit. It's polyester, Trig. It sparkles because of the static. I like the sparkles, Trigger said. But you know what I think? I think life is like a broom. You can have the same broom for 20 years. You just have to change the head and the handle every now and then. Dell looked at him. Trig, that's the same broom. You've just replaced all the parts. Exactly, Trigger said, looking satisfied. And that's you. Dell, you've replaced your houses, your cars, your money, but you're still the same broom. You just keep sweeping. Dell let out a long, shaky breath. You know, Trig, for a man who hears voices. You make a lot of sense sometimes. I am the broom, and Peckham is my warehouse. Do you want to know what the voices said today, Dell? Not really, Trig. They said ravel, just the one word, over and over again. Dell stiffened. Ravel. Why ravel? I don't know, Trigger said, finishing his drink. Maybe they like his shoes. Dell sat in the silence of the pub, the word ravel echoing in his mind. Was it a sign, a curse, or just the ghost of a 50,000-pound mistake that would haunt him for the rest of his life? Chapter 19, The Organizer Meltdown. The oven drying experiment was, perhaps unsurprisingly, a catastrophe. Rodney had left the Trotter 3000s in the oven